Ladies and gentlemen, we're about 9 minutes away from beginning our first press conference with Loyola. With a Z. Thank you. Hi. Mike Stan. Nice to meet you, Kristen. I don't know them yet. Don't know them yet. Yep. student athletes will come in here and sit maybe before he even walks off. We can if there's a gap.
Well, if that's the case, I got to move everybody down.
You sure?
Yeah, because he's sitting out there.
Why? Well, then why do we even have that seat? They may walk up here before the coach walks out.
So we're going to move the coach next to you.
Okay.
And I'll move him.
Well, we're running late already. Before we get started here with Coach Moser from Loyola, just a few announcements to make. Please silence your cell phones in this room and in the media workroom. Please, flash photography is not permitted here and during the press conferences. No live transmission or streaming of press conferences or videotaping is strictly prohibited. Satellite coordinates are available on the tables. Come on, Coach, have a seat. Thank you very much. And please raise your hand when you want to ask a question and alert a microphone holder to get to you, and then I can recognize you for a question. And when you ask a question, please identify yourself and your media agency before you ask the question. And also, Loyola's locker room is open during this entire press conference for the individuals who are not in here. So, without further ado, Coach Moser, welcome to Atlanta. If you could just maybe give a quick opening statement on your team, and then we'll open it for questions.
You know, I know, obviously, just like everybody, we're excited to be here. Our guys has enjoyed this journey, but just like each step of the way of this process, they've been focused, locked in practices and film. So it won't be that they're enjoying the moment too much. They're enjoying the journey, but they're ready and locked in.
Terrific. We'll open it for questions. Let's take our first over here in the third row.
David Haas, Chicago Tribune. Porter, understand that you had some difficulty getting to the arena.
Yeah.
How did you handle that, and what happened?
Our guys handled it a lot better than me. I guess my immaturity came out, but I just no, it was frustrating. We couldn't get here, but when we got here, everybody was great, and had a good practice. Guys got a lot of shots in. We went over a lot of things. So, you know, you're going to either let it bother you or not, and so we're not going to let it bother us. And everything since that moment has been great. People here have been great, and we've been able to. Hey, if you can't, maybe it's a first fighting adversity. You know, you got to have to do that in this situation.
Let's go over here to this side of the room.
Carl Phillips with the New York Daily News. Coach, there have been some reports there is some student unrest and possible professors getting ready to walk out or protest on campus. I was wondering if you had a chance to address that with your team, or if you guys have been able to lock in on the task at hand this weekend.
Yeah, we haven't been able to address it yet. I know the university is. I know the university is very much on top of it, but it hasn't something we've been addressed. Everything's been happening so fast for us. We got back from Dallas. Then we found out we're going to play. It's been prep, and the next thing you know, we left Tuesday morning. So I know the university. There's great people there, and they're handling that.
Let's stay right here in the fourth row.
Nubias Wilborn, Sporting News. Hey, Coach. Tell me your first memory of Dante Ingram, and then how much has he grown since that first time you interacted with him?
The first time I interacted with Dante was over at Simeon, you know, doing a recruiting visit, and watching come from a great program to where the kids are about winning. Their coach is, you know, a terrific coach, getting after the guys in terms of discipline and playing the right way. And I just saw his athletic ability first, and then I saw his skill, you know, and I like mismatch guys. You know, some people were saying, oh, he's too small to be a 4. He's not quite the ball handler to be a 3. And I love tweeners. I think they're mismatch guys. And then I got to know him walking around campus, and I got to meet his parents. And his brother played at Loyola 10 years earlier. So they were well aware, right out of the gate, one of the first things they said to me was, we know how good an education Loyola is. And I'm like, wow, they get this. This is great. It's a fit. And then the more Dante's got an infectious personality. He's got a smile that, you know, lights up a room. And then when he's got a competitive streak on the court, that lights up a room. And he has been about winning. He's been about others. He's been a great teammate. And then the other thing that really struck me about Dante over the years is how much he's improved. Every single offseason, Dante's improved. And that's, part of our culture of development, which we have to be a program of development, and a part of his culture as a buy-in. Phenomenal parents, phenomenal program he comes from, and a high-character young man.
Let's go over here in the third row.
Porter, people might look at these two teams and see a lot of similarities because of the size of the school and the stature, et cetera. How are you alike? How are you different?
I think they play unbelievably hard. They are somewhat positionless. They have a number of different guys. They're interchangeable parts. They have interchangeable parts of a lot of guys can bring it up. A lot of guys can shoot it. They'll have their point guard post up, back you in. They're interchangeable. They switch everything. They got shooters. They got guys that can put it on the deck. They got guards that can post you up that are thick. Interchangeable parts across the board. Then you combine that with extreme toughness. I think where we're different is the size of their interchangeable parts. I mean, they're 6'7" across the board. I mean, the Martin twins, those are two unbelievably difficult guys to scout against when you're breaking down film. Jordan Caroline, I was familiar with him when he was at Southern Illinois. And, watching him develop, and he is a mismatch nightmare. They have a bunch of guys that are mismatch nightmares. And that's why they're so hard to guard. That's why their offense is one of the best in the country, because they got interchangeable parts.
Second row here on the left.
Coach, I hear a lot of talk about this being sort of the Kentucky Invitational in this region. As a competitor, what do you make of that, and what do you hope your guys make of that?
I might have thought that with our problems getting here to the arena. But truly, our guys, all year long, we haven't even looked at who's ahead of us farther than the team in front of us. We really have not mentioned the other two teams. Obviously, everyone follows the tournament. They know who they are, but we haven't even addressed it, talked about it. It has been all about Nevada. And I'll say this, I've said this to our guys, and this is one characteristic part of our culture that I love, is our guys have embraced, in this day and age, respect is not a weakness. Respect is not a weakness. And these guys, we've spent the last 48 hours, 72 hours getting ourselves locked in on Nevada, and we respect them a ton. How hard they play, how well they're coached, the pieces they have, the toughness they have. So our focus hasn't been on anybody else. It's been about what Nevada does well and what we have to do to stop them.
Let's go to Ken in the middle.
Porter, Ken Seguir, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I spoke with Tony Baroni about him hiring you, playing for you, you playing for him, and then also him giving you your first job. And he was saying that he treated you kind of like another coach in terms of tasks, responsibilities. But I'm curious what you remember about that job, maybe some of the more menial aspects of it, and just maybe what it's done for you going forward.
Coach Baroni was a huge influence in my life. He was my college coach, and then he was the first coach to hire me into this profession. So I spent 4 years as a player with him and 6 years as a coach. And the thing that I learned from him is you can get on kids. You can demand kids if they know you love them and trust them. Coach Majerus was the same way. Coach Baroni was very hard on us as players, but our whole locker room knew how much he loved you. So you can have that. It's like your father. My father was a disciplinarian. He was on me, but there's not a day I didn't know he loved me. You can do that if there's a relationship there. When I worked for him, he wouldn't allow you to think that any task was too small or too big. It was about getting it done the right way. And the work ethic, of working and doing things, he was very demanding of me. Coach Majerus was the same way. I've had a lot of assistants go through Loyola and they're a high major. In 7 years, I think I've lost 6 assistants to high major jobs. I can go down the name and list them all. They're at high major schools. I have a couple of them that are head coaches. I have 3 assistants that are head Division I coaches right now. And I think you'll ask them, and they'll tell you the same thing. You learn from who you worked for earlier, and I think they'd all say, you know, I learned it from Coach Baroni on task-oriented, do your job, do it with energy, you know. He wouldn't let you do, if he gave you a job and you hung your head and you did it half-heartedly, you knew about it. You know, you achieve what you emphasize, and, you know, he always had a ton of energy, and I love that's been my MO, that's what I connect with.
New bias.
All right. Well, two questions. One, what exactly happened coming to the arena? You kind of mentioned like just being able to get in, and then the other part is with Dante going back, him being a Simeon kid, particularly that school being so much Chicago. How big has that been for your program going forward, being able to get kids like that from this city?
I'll start with the latter one first. You know, when I got the job 7 years ago, we were Loyola of Chicago, and we had one Illinois player on our team, which is nuts. We had no Chicago Public League kids for a 12-year span before I got the job, which is nuts. So then we signed Milton Doyle. Milton Doyle was the first, who's now with the Brooklyn Nets. Milton was the second-rated player in the state, and when we got Milton, I think everyone just kind of looked around in the city and said, wow, Milton's staying home. And then Dante was the one that followed. He said, well, if Milton stays home, and then they, you know, I think people. And then Lucas came along, and everyone from Chicago that comes on our campus here recently, because they've redone the whole thing, they say the same thing. I can't believe this is here. It's right on the lake. It's gorgeous campus. And I think, you know, these guys, it's meant a lot. I think a lot of people in Chicago. How apropos was it that a Chicago young man hit that game winner against Miami? You know, I mean, there's a ton of pride. And you can just hear it in Dante's voice, the pride he has playing for a hometown team. And hopefully that snowballs, that other young men look at it and say, I can get a first-class education and play great basketball and have the opportunity to win right here at home. Friends and family can see it. So that's been a huge thing for us to maintain some Chicago kids being loyal of Chicago. In terms of what happened at the arena, we were supposed to get an escort. We didn't, and no one knew how to get here. Our bus driver didn't know, and it took 35, 40 minutes to get here. But you overcome. You know, I told our guys, it's our first thing to overcome, and it's like getting a couple turnovers early. You got to put it behind you and overcome.
Let's go here on the left, toward the back.
Coach Maceo Hurd, the Crush Sports Talk. Talk about this national platform and how it works wonders for your recruiting.
You know, I think we're a program that can recruit nationally because of the Jesuit education, and I think, you know, so that's something nationally with the education. You know, the question always been is, man, they've went 30-some years without winning. You know, it's been that. And to see the videos of Chicago, of our student body going viral after this tournament, Chicago's a prideful city. It's a prideful sports town, and I love that about it. You know, people always told me, oh, Chicago's a sports town, you can't get a college team. No, Northwestern proved it last year. We're proving it this year. They love and respect hard work, tough, togetherness, and this city's embraced us. This city has absolutely embraced us, and it's great to see. You know, someone just sent us a thing about the Loyola watch parties around the country. There's Loyola gatherings in almost every city because of the alumni base. How cool is that? You know, the interest level. So I love that Loyola Nation, Rambler fans all over the country, because pride is an awesome human trait. It's an awesome human trait. And to see the pride in Loyola alumni, fans, and Chicago is something that is great.
Let's go here on the second row, and then we may have to stop there.
Coach, obviously, this probably applies to several of the teams still left in this regional, but you handled it well last week. Is there anything you have to do to kind of show your team not to be the moment too big for them, or to kind of now all of a sudden get caught up in the hype? They had a great first weekend, but and like I said, this probably applies to several teams that are still alive in this bracket.
Sure. I mean, obviously this is the highest moment we've been in, but we've been preparing for high moments that we haven't been in for about a month. When we won the conference outright at Southern Illinois, it was a huge moment for our team, big celebration. We came back to campus. We still had another game at home, and it was a sellout, our first sellout, and it was a huge hype. We won that game, and then the surrounding of that, getting presented the trophy. Then we went to the tournament. We were worried. Everyone kind of said, we got to win the tournament to get in. And that moment wasn't too big. Then we won the tournament, and then there was another level of huge hype. We had a watch party. Everyone was worried. How are you going to handle this? We went into the tournament and refocused and won 2 games. These guys have been preparing for it. And the reason why we can do it is these guys they're winners. It's been noted a lot that we have 7 kids on our team that won state championships. They're winners, and they're together. They're a connected team. They hang together off the court. They're talking in the hotels about the moment. Every film session, They lock in on the scouting. They're enjoying the ride, and I'm happy as heck they're enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the ride with them because they're awesome kids. We love our locker room. We love our team. And the reason why I'm not, the moment's not going to be the reason. We prepared for this every step, and they're locked in. They're going to embrace it.
I think that's all we have.
Thank you.
Coach. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll resume with questions for the student athletes now for Loyola. Raise your hand, and we'll get a microphone to you. All right, let's go, Nubias. We can start with you.
All right, Nubias Woodbourne, Sporting News. Dante, how are you doing, man?
Good, how about yourself?
Quick question for you. Coach was mentioning you coming from Chicago. What was the thing that brought you to Loyola coming from Simeon?
Being from Denver, Illinois, and then moving to Chicago after my sophomore year of high school, I was kind of, just getting situated in Chicago at Simeon, and then my family finally got to where I was my senior year. So obviously, I was just getting situated in Chicago, and then, starting to get interest from Loyola, and going up, visiting, and I started seeing myself, being implemented into the system, and I liked, the culture and where things were headed. And, seeing other Chicago guys like Milton Doyle on the team, it just helped my decision.
Third row on the right.
David Haas, Chicago Tribune. Dante and Clayton, how would you describe your coach this morning on the bus as you guys were on it for 30 minutes looking for a way in?
You take that one.
Clayton, why don't you start with that, and then Dante.
We were driving around, and even, I think some of us were even starting to be like, what is going on right now? So I knew Porter was not happy about what was happening. We were driving around, and then when we finally made it, I knew that he wasn't. I knew that he was going to say something to somebody. But no, I think he kept his cool pretty good there. I think he did a pretty good job.
Do you have anything to add?
What he said.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to the back of the room here and on the left.
This is for Ben. Much has been made about Nevada's positionless offense and defense and such. What problems does that pose for you matchup-wise?
It's going to be a really tough matchup as far as finding guys in transition. It's kind of unconventional in the sense that there's no conventional rim runner. Everyone's running to the three-point line. They got a ton of shooters. They can space the floor really well. So it's tough to match up with when you got a 5 on the floor that maybe doesn't move as well as a guard, doesn't guard as well as a guard. It's going to take a lot of us to communicate and really stay connected to be able to guard dribble drives and just the way they space it and score fast. I think we're going to have to do a really good job communicating and guarding in the first 10 seconds of the possession. Because they really, really try to strike you early in transition. And I think it's going to take the whole team, all 5 guys on the court, to really slow them down.
Middle of the room here.
Hey, Dante, can you talk about how you guys have embraced this historic season and, you guys haven't been to the Sweet 16 since 1985. So how have you guys as a team embraced all you've been through so far?
I feel like, obviously it's been a great, great experience getting here, a great ride, with this group of, guys and coaching staff. We're just embracing the moment. We don't take any of this for granted. Obviously we're happy we're here in the position we're in. And, this team, we know what we're capable of. And, obviously here in the Sweet 16, it's been 33 years, but, we just want to, like I said, take advantage of every moment that we're in and, do whatever we can do to keep getting wins.
Let me, before we continue, just remind everybody to identify yourselves before you ask a question. Okay, Blair, go ahead.
Blair Kirkhoff from the Kansas City Star. Clayton, I believe I'm right about this. There's 3 guys from your high school team here in Atlanta with Mason. And I'm just wondering what that says about, obviously you guys had a great run in high school, but what does it say about the quality of basketball also in that part of the metro, and is it underrated?
Yeah, I think it speaks to our culture at Blue Valley Northwest, the type of players we had at Blue Valley Northwest for sure. Coach Frisk done such a good job of teaching us the game and teaching us how to play the game the right way. Yeah, it's awesome that me and Ben are here with us, and then Mason's over there with K-State. But I think it goes to show that Kansas high school basketball is pretty good, and I don't know if it necessarily gets the respect it deserves. There's a lot of really good players there, and I think it's special that we have 3 kids from Overland Park, Kansas, playing in the Sweet 16 for sure.
Second row here.
To anybody up there who wants to answer, Paul Newberry from Associated Press. Just when you look at this bracket where nobody higher than a 5 is still in it, what does it kind of say about basketball that all the favorites have been knocked out of at least the top 4? And do you guys pay attention when you hear people sort of penciling in Kentucky from this bracket when they see who's left here?
Dante, you want to start with that?
Obviously there's been a lot of, upsets with higher seeds and lower seeds playing. But, you as a team, you can't really buy into, who has the higher seed and, who you're playing against and the name on the jersey. I feel like, all across the country, there's very good players everywhere, and everybody wants to win. So at this point, when you get on that stage and you're out there and you're at the, in the tournament, everybody's trying to play. Everybody wants to win, and it's March Madness. So, you see teams, just leaving it all out there and wanting to get wins, and not buying into, just the names on the jerseys. You can't get into that. So obviously, for us, we don't care who we play, and obviously we're gonna be picked as the underdogs, and we embrace that. We like that mindset that we have, and that's our approach going into any game.
Clayton, you want to answer that one too, and then we'll move on.
I think it just goes to show that maybe the difference between high major basketball and mid major basketball isn't as big of a difference anymore. I think that there's a lot of really, really good teams out there. I know we can speak for the Missouri Valley. I think the level of basketball that's played in the Missouri Valley is really, really high level. You see it every year. Teams from our conference will win a lot of big non-conference games at the beginning of the year, and I think that just goes to show that we can play. And I think that it's cool that we're playing Nevada in the Sweet 16 with a chance. One of us for sure is going to be in the Elite 8. So I don't think that any of us, once you get to this point, really care about the name on the front of your jersey. We're going to have to play. Everybody's going to have to play well in order to win.
Left side of the room here.
C.L. Brown with the Field House. This is for Dante. Coach Moses talked about you as being kind of a classic tweener with your skill set. I was curious, coming out of high school, how did you view yourself as a player? Was there anybody in particular that you kind of patterned yourself after, and how did you grow into the role you have now?
Obviously, coming out of high school, and still, I consider myself, I'm a guard, but being, coming into Loyola, I kind of embrace, being more versatile. Having that versatility, adding, certain pieces to my game, and especially with the guys we had where I was at a mismatch position, I embraced it. Obviously, basketball nowadays is becoming more positionless, so, the more things you can do and, the better chance you have of being out on the court. So I kind of embraced, adding, low post and, mid post and everything to my game. So, and obviously, nowadays, like I said, the way the game is, the more things you can do, the better chance you got of being out on the court.
Right side of the room toward the back.
This question is for Ben Rahul Rahatgi with CBS Sports. How do you think you guys have handled the extra media attention and sort of having cameras in your face all around?
I think it's definitely been an adjustment. Not something that we get just in the normal routine and course of the Valley season. We've enjoyed having you around, but it's been an adjustment, and it's kind of been something we haven't had to talk about a whole lot. Coaches just kind of stayed on us about sticking to what's gotten us here and focusing when it's time to step on the court. It's that same level of focus, that same level of energy and intensity that we've had all year. I think this is probably the best practice team I've ever been on. We really go hard when we're out there, and we try to have a laser-like focus. And I think we can kind of compartmentalize the media stuff here, and then when we get out there, we're going to get after it. And I think that's why we've been able to be successful, at end of the postseason and just in the tournament especially.
Left side of the room again.
Tobias Wilbur on Sporting News. It's actually for anyone on the panel. What of the last couple of days has been like the best either tweet or phone call that you've gotten, or like from the most surprising person?
Chance.
This has got to be Dante.
Yeah, this is Dante's question.
All right, Dante.
He didn't even have a Twitter. He didn't have a Twitter, and he got tweeted at by Chance the Rapper, so he made a Twitter.
Well, the real story behind that, I've never really been a huge Twitter guy, and to be honest, I have 2 classes that require a Twitter right now, so I was on the verge of making one anyway. And then honestly, obviously, winning a couple games in the tournament and all the attention we've been getting, guys tweeting at us, and then getting a shout out from Chance the Rapper, the Southside native, then that just that added to it. That was the icing on the cake for me, and I finally gave in to make a Twitter. So,
all right, we've got time. We got time for a couple more. So you have a follow up? Yes, all right, do it quickly.
All right, you mentioned Chance. What was that like for you? I'm assuming you listen to his music. What was it like hearing from him? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Honestly, that's huge. For another guy that takes pride in the city of Chicago. He has great music, and he does so much for the city. He's around. He's very supportive, and you look up to guys like that. So that's one of my role models, and I look up to everything he does and how he carries himself. So it was huge.
Okay, 2 more. Back of the room.
Ryan Kern with News 4 in Reno. This question's for any one of you. Is there any one player when you're watching this Nevada team film, watching them play, that you find yourself kind of keeping an eye on, close attention, respect their game? It's just any one player that pops out to you on this team that you focus on.
I'm sorry, who was that for?
Ryan Kernan.
No, who's the question for?
Oh, any one of the 4, if any pops in any of their heads.
All right, Ben, why don't you start?
The thing about this Nevada team that's so dangerous is I think they have, they've kind of talked about how they only play 6 guys, but each one of those 6 guys can really, really hurt you. And, what we've been talking about in practice is just staying urgent and staying focused, throughout the possession and especially in transition to slow them down. They can, each one of them can beat you off the dribble. They got the twins who are both super talented, can really make plays for themselves and really great ISO players. And so we've really, really focused on not really one guy, but staying connected as a unit, 5 guys on the court, and really being together to slow down, their attack. And it's like I said earlier, it's going to take all 5 guys being connected to stop, because any one of those guys can really hurt you, off the dribble, from deep, anytime. So it's going to take all of us to really lock in and stay connected.
Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much, guys. Next up in the interview room will be Nevada, starting at 12:40. hotels, to be honest with you. I'm sure they're all downtown. Yeah. I'm certain they're all downtown, but I don't know for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, we kind of know what that's like around here. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I know. Oh, okay. So okay. I thought you were giving me a bunch of them, not just the specific ones. Good enough. Only 3 this time. Oh, we get the twins. The twins. Before we get started with Nevada, let me just remind everybody to silence your cell phones, please. No flash photography during the press conferences today. No videotaping of press conferences or live transmission or streaming of them. You can find satellite coordinates on it. There are sheets with the coordinates on the tables that you're working off of around the room. Make sure you raise your right hand or left hand to ask a question so the microphone holder can come to you and then we can recognize you. And please make sure to identify yourself and your media agency before you ask the question. And during the time that the Nevada coaches and student athletes are up here, their locker room will be open for all other members of their team. And for the Nevada press conference, the student athletes will be in here for the first 15 minutes, then Coach Musselman. Okay, folks, Nevada's on the clock, so whoever has a question, please raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Front row here, or second row on the left side.
Hey, Ethan Joyce of the Winston-Salem Journal for Caleb and Cody. You guys have talked a lot this year about having the confidence of this team, having the confidence of Coach. So what does it mean to capitalize on that confidence, especially in these last two tournament games where you both have kind of come up big in the last few minutes?
Cody, why don't you start?
I think the biggest thing is, when it comes to confidence, just being able to play, especially the situation that we're in. It could have been easy for not only us, but our team to fold. But with Coach and our teammates instilling that kind of confidence in us, it was easy for us to keep going, especially during the game and seeing who you're playing for and your teammates and realizing how much work you put in over the summer. you know, it wasn't so it was easy for us not to give up. And even though the deficit was kind of large, you know, we were playing for each other at that point. And then, you know, good things happen when you play hard. So,
Caleb, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, pretty much just, he took all the words out of my mouth. It's the same thing, really. Just, you know, coach doesn't ask us to do much but play hard and, you know, play confident. Just like he coaches, he doesn't really, you know, he focuses on defense, and he knows that we're a pretty good offensive team, and he knows that, you know, we'll put him up and eventually stuff will start falling. But, yeah, pretty much our whole entire theme of our team is just playing hard and confident. So plays a big role and got us here.
Left side toward the back.
Daryl Moody, Nevada Appeal. Hallis, what stands out about Loyola Chicago? What type of play do they like to do, and are they a type of team that's going to want to ball control and keep the score down?
Yeah, they like to control the pace of the game. They play together, they share the ball. You can tell that they don't care who's taking the big shots or who's scoring, who's the leading scorer. And they really get after it, and they have a tight-knit group, and they have a lot of chemistry.
Center of the room.
Chris Murray, Reno Gazette-Journal. To both Caleb and Cody, your mom was on TV quite a bit during the Cincinnati game. They kept flashing to her. I guess, how has she processed what you guys did last week and, you know, her kind of becoming a little bit of a TV star herself?
Caleb, why don't you start this time?
She feels like a celebrity now for some reason. I don't know why. But she's having fun with it. I mean, it's something that, you know, that she hasn't always been used to or anything like that. So I think it's pretty cool for her to get some recognition and, you know, to shine some light on what she's done for us and how we got here. But you know, she's been loving it like anybody else. But it's crazy to you know, to go back and watch games and see the camera pan over to her and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, honestly. So she likes it. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. She's just having fun with it, and you know, to see her like that and you know, have all smiles, and you know, that's something that all she wants us to do is just have fun and enjoy what we're doing. And for her to be able to be here for that, it just means a lot, especially knowing the circumstances and situation that was, you know, early on in life, and then to see us here and how far that we've come, and along with her and everything that she sacrificed, it just means a lot, and it means a lot to us to see her have that kind of joy. So,
raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Who has a question? Okay, let's go back here and then to the front row.
Hallis, you guys have been trailing at halftime each of your last 5 games. Obviously, you've had some great comebacks, won 3 of those games. What will be the key to not putting yourself in that position and getting off to a better start against Loyola?
Just coming out and executing offensively, getting everybody the ball and involved early, just getting a feel for it. And then defensively, that helps us, you know, talk and communicate, and everybody feels like they have a groove. I believe, like, if we get behind with this team, it'll be hard to get back in front because they execute so well offensively. They know how to control the pace of the game. So it's very important for us to get out to a good start, crash the offensive glass, and, you know, take our time offensively and get great shots.
Second row on the left.
Caleb and Cody again. I know Davie County's pretty excited to watch what you guys are doing. So what's the outreach been like since you guys have made the Sweet 16, and maybe is there something that surprised you by the amount or the person that reached out to you?
Caleb, go ahead.
I mean, the outreach has been, you know, it's been amazing. We look, you know, stuff on Facebook. You know, there's been a lot of people, even at our old elementary school, there's been signs and stuff put up, like by the road where they have the signs in front of the elementary school. Our elementary school has put our signs and our names out there and saying good luck and congratulations, and just all the people, old teachers and old teammates, old coaches. So just the support around me and my brother from my hometown it's been awesome, just to see everybody reach out and know that everybody's keeping up with us. So it's been great. Yeah, same thing. It has been great, and for everybody to reach out to us and congratulate us, and you know, for it to be a very, very small town, it feels like a big town with everybody, you know, is behind us and supporting us. So it means a lot. And like I said before, it's bigger than just us, and you don't realize how many people that you touch and how many people recognize and realize what you're doing. And you know, there's some people that wish that they were in our positions, but there's also some people that, you know, do everything they can to just support us and let us know that they're behind us and everything that we do. So we really appreciate that.
If you have a question, raise your hand so we can get a microphone to you. Who has a question? Center of the room.
I mean, Cody, one of the big topics that's been discussed when Loyola was up there was the pace of the game. You guys obviously want to play faster. I guess what's going to be the key, you being the point guard, of getting this pace in your guys' favor throughout the game?
I think the biggest thing in order for us to control the pace is it has to start off with getting stops, and we know that they execute really well. And for us to play the pace that we want to, it's going to have to come to getting stops and getting rebounds and getting out and going. But they do a really good job of getting back, stopping the ball, because they execute not only offensively but defensively as well, and they rotate really well. So it's going to be tricky, and there's going to be a lot of times where we're going to have to be able to execute our half-court sets because they do a good job at that. And I have the utmost confidence in my teammates and our staff to realize that, and that's something that we're very capable of doing. So I don't know, it's going to be an interesting game, but I'm looking forward to it.
Raise your hand if you have a question. Anybody else have a question for either of the three student athletes? Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get started with Coach Musselman. We'll have we've got 15 minutes until 1:05. So, who has a question? Please raise your hand, and we'll get a microphone to you as quickly as possible. Right here. No? Okay. Okay, right on the left side.
Coach, you've had a few days now to go over film, et cetera. What does Loyola like to do, and why are they so good at their efficiency?
Well, Loyola's great offensive team, great defensive team, top 50 ranking in both categories. They do a great job of spacing the floor. Offensively, they can shoot the three. They got a point guard who was player of the year in their conference. They have a big man who was freshman of the year in their conference. Another player who was first team all freshman in their league, defensive player of the year at the off guard. Really, really, really well coached. So they present a lot of problems. They can space you out. They pass. They have good ball movement. They have good body movement where they move well without the basketball. And then on defense, they just play with great effort.
You've played a couple other Missouri Valley Conference teams this year. Do they remind you of either of the teams you faced earlier?
No, they're a lot better than the two teams that we played, without a question. If I had to compare them to style and how difficult they are to prepare for, so like a St. Mary's team, for people on the West Coast. I mean, they're just they're so well coached, and they move the ball so well that they present problems for what type of defense you're going to game plan for them.
Second row on the right.
Jerry Tipton, Lexington Herald Leader. Coach, Kentucky is kind of perceived as like an overwhelming favorite in this region. As a competitor, how do you process that? How do you want your guys to process it?
I'm only worried about one game, one team, Thursday night at whatever time they tell us we're playing, 7, whatever. I don't even know who else is here.
Let's go middle of the room toward the left.
Coach, Mark Tracy from the New York Times. Just wondering, you have a very unusual perspective, pro and college side, and the games seem very different. I was wondering if you can put yourself back in your pro shoes just for a moment. If you were in the NBA, affiliated with the NBA, and watching the college game, would you find it easy or challenging to kind of analyze players playing in the college game and college systems and that different style of play?
Yeah, I mean, the two games are distinctively different. For instance, when I was in the NBA coaching, I never watched a college game. But I think if you're asking strictly about evaluating, I think from an evaluation standpoint, it's a little bit easier to evaluate now than it was 15 or 20 years ago, because I think that the college systems and style of play are slowly but surely evolving towards how NBA teams play. Shot clock has a lot to do with that. Today's student athletes are looking for the most part, are looking for styles and systems that mirror NBA type play. There's more teams in college shooting the three ball than there were, 15 years ago. And then I think the pace of play has picked up in the college game for the most part. So I think from an NBA evaluation standpoint, which is I think kind of where the question was going, that I think it's a little bit easier now to evaluate than it was 20 years ago.
Steve, toward the right.
Yeah, Coach, I don't know how many times in your life you've given the don't ever give up speech and how many times it's actually worked, but why does it seem to resonate so much better with this team?
I just think that it doesn't start when you're down by 22 with 10:58 to go against Cincinnati. That's not when that starts, that mentality. That mentality starts in August, and how you prepare, the way that you practice every day. It's not a one-time thing. Last year we came back in Albuquerque. I got a text message from Keith Smart talking about 16 or 17 years ago, whatever it was, when we were in Rapid City and down by 27 in the second half of a game. And I think that, for us and our group, our whole thing is about how to compete on the next possession. It doesn't matter if we're up 20, down 20. It's about the next possession, and we talk about that. We were on an overseas, trip, this summer, and some of our guys were new to our system and stuff, and we might have been up by 30, and with 2 minutes to go in the game, we were not taking bad shots, we weren't turning the ball over, we were playing the possession, and there's no question that there's some luck involved. There was some luck involved in Albuquerque last year, and there was some luck involved in Texas and some luck involved in Cincinnati. But when it keeps happening, I do think it's a credit to the players' mentality and the toughness that the group has.
Toward the front here on the left.
Ethan Joyce, Winston-Salem Journal. Coach, I know you've talked about how you went about recruiting the Martin brothers, but just in general, when you're asking two guys to move cross-country and come to your program, does that make it any more difficult getting guys to come across the country when they've never been out of the state before?
Well, it's kind of interesting because when we first got the job, we were basically only recruiting California, and we got Cameron Oliver, who was from Sacramento, and Lindsey Drew, who was from L.A. And then we started working on some transfers, and obviously Jordan Caroline's from Illinois, and Marcus Marshall from Minnesota, and those two guys came, in that same class, and now the four sit-out guys that aren't playing right now that are sitting out, Jazz Johnson's from Portland, and Nizre's from the East Coast, and Corey Henson's from the East Coast in D.C., and Trey Thurman's from Omaha. So we've had really good success for whatever it is, recruiting guys that are far, far outside of where we originally thought our recruiting base was going to be. And obviously the Martin twins, we took a little bit different approach to recruiting them. We knew that everybody wanted Caleb, everybody in the country. And we kind of, didn't worry about Caleb and just went after Cody really hard. We knew that they were going to play together no matter where they went. And so we recruited Cody more than we recruited Caleb. And Caleb actually liked the fact that we wanted his brother so badly, and I know that his mom felt the same way.
Center of the room.
Chris Murray, Reno Gazette-Journal. Not to give any secrets away, but I know when you guys set your code to your locker room, you set it as 16-16 because the goal was to get to the Sweet 16. Now that you've achieved that, do the goals change for what you want to accomplish out of this season?
Yeah, we didn't go back to Reno, so we couldn't change the code to the locker room. But, we want to advance, Chris. And we know Loyola does too. And, one of us is going to, and one of us is going to be really disappointed. But we don't feel like hey, we're ready to go home. I mean, I told the guy, like, I want to coach him again. I want to coach him on Friday. Hopefully they want to be coached again on Friday. But none of us want it to end. I mean, we have some seniors just like everybody does. We don't want their college careers to end, and we'd certainly like to go down as the greatest team in school history, to advance to another game. And I know that anybody that's in this situation, when you make the Sweet 16, everybody wants to advance all 16 teams, and all 16 teams probably have great confidence and belief that they can do it.
Toward the back on the right.
Hi, Coach. Coy Wire, CNN. I see you taking your shirt off, getting your players hyped, feeding off the energy. I read an article that described you as an often shirtless madman who has driven his team to follow his lead. Guys love you. In life, how important is it to live with passion, and where did you learn that philosophy?
My dad was pretty passionate. And I guess at this stage of my career, like, the only ones I'm really worried about, so to speak, are, my bosses, our school president and our athletic directors and our players. I guess my wife, too. I don't want to embarrass her too much more. This morning I was going to sleep in, and she said, you need to go down and get on the treadmill if you plan on winning another game. But, look, our guys get me, and we have fun together. We really work hard, and we grind together, and I think if you don't have time in life to celebrate the good times, then it makes it a lot harder to work hard, and our recruits can see the passion from afar, and look, we're having a blast. I'm not gonna tell you we're not having a blast, and that's why we don't want this thing to end. We want to keep playing and keep competing.
Also, sorry.
Let's go to the back of the room on the left.
Tucker Toole, Maroon Tiger Media Group. Coach, I know you just talked about recruiting the Twins and the recruiting on the West Coast. How do you think this Sweet 16 berth for you guys is going to affect recruiting in the grand scheme of things?
I mean, we hope that it helps. I mean, we hope that guys that we're recruiting that are being recruited by, and no player in particular, but just anybody that's on our recruiting board that we've had discussions with that's looking at Power 5 schools. I hope that they look at us and say, hey, they have their own practice facility and they're winning at a high level, and you can go to a Sweet 16 if you go there, and that's kind of how we look at ourselves, like we are a Power 5 school, and hopefully young kids that are looking at their next landing spot feel that way as well. We won't know the effect of it until 2-3 years down the road.
Let's come back to the right.
Coy Wire, CNN. Coach, you have coached at the highest level in this sport, and I was talking to someone who was on the bus with your players as they were coming here, and they said, my gosh, this is a real police escort. When you see that and hear things like that, what does that mean to you, and what is your biggest hope for these kids?
Well, for sure, with our student athletes, and they might not know it right now, this is going to be the greatest time of their life. And these memories for these 2 games and the game coming up will last them forever. I tell the guys all the time, I was part of 2 NCAA tournament teams at the University of San Diego my freshman and senior year, and I can vividly remember the entire 40-minute games, both of them. We lost both games, once to Auburn, once to Princeton. And those 2 games, those 80 minutes, and obviously you can just look at me and tell I didn't play much, those 80 minutes to me are the 80 of the greatest minutes ever. Doesn't matter if coaching an NBA game or whatever, participating as a player in an NCAA tournament, it does not get any better in life. And if we have guys that are fortunate enough to play at the next level, these 2 games that they've just played and the one coming up are going to stand out in their minds for the rest of their lives. And to me, that's why this event is undescribable. When you win and you advance, when you lose, it happens so quick, and you go to the game, and if you lose in that first game, you don't get the full flavor of what we're getting right now.
Steve, right here, and then we'll go to the back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself last night. It's Steve Hummer with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I don't know, during this latest run, how many times have you heard your father's voice in your ear, and what is it saying to you?
I hear it all the time. Before I go down and address the team, I think about things that my dad would tell his team. It's not often that your dad is, he was my best friend. He was my idol. I wanted to walk in his footsteps. If you look at our careers, our minor league records, it's eerie. There's barely percentage points in our difference in our win-loss records, at least at the minor league level where a lot of our careers were spent. When most kids come down to get ready for school and watch cartoons, my whole life I was either talking X and O's or we had game film running. But I hear him all the time, and I also hear him talk about, are you insane? Have you lost your mind? Why are you shooting so many threes? Why are you playing fast? Slow the ball down. Because obviously, my dad's teams were grinded out, defensive-oriented teams, and we play a completely contrasting style from the way that I was raised and watched his teams play.
Let's go two more, starting with the back on the left.
Isaiah Smalls, Maroon Tiger Media Group. In the past two games, you guys had to overcome deficits of 14 and 22 points, respectively. What have you guys worked on this week to prevent having to play from behind?
Try to change up our offensive set so we can score some points in the first half. Look, our guy, I think that we might have played a little bit tight in both games, to be honest. And we're still going through an identity crisis, so to speak, without Lindsey Drew, who's been our 3-year point guard starter. And Cody's done an unbelievably incredible job, but we're just a little bit different team. And there's been times over the last 3 weeks that I feel like, we can get discombobulated, not because of any one player, just because everybody's playing out of position. Now, Caleb Martin's playing the 4 spot on offense a lot of times. And he hasn't done that all year. He's played the 2-3, but when we moved Cody down, we're kind of still evolving, so to speak. And I also think that's why we have the ability to continue to get better throughout this tournament, because we haven't peaked in who we are. We're still, we feel like we're still getting better, which is probably why we've advanced as well.
Last question, right here on the left.
Eric, how much do you take away from your mom and how much do you take away from your dad on a percentage basis?
Probably 90% of my dad and 50% of it I need not to take. And then that's where my mom comes in. So if it's 100%, I'm probably going to go about 180 on percentile, even though I know it's supposed to be 100. But my mom, she's a little bit lower key. More practical jokes and stuff than my dad, kind of a lighter side. So, I hope that all of us, no matter who's in the room, I think that we all want to, I hope my sons take, half of me and half of their mom, and hope my daughter takes 99% of my wife and 1% of me.
Coach Musselman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's okay. We'll get started with Kansas State at 1:15. Additional note to the media, all the transcripts from today's press conferences and from all the sites this weekend will be available at ncaa.com/transcripts, ncaa.com/transcripts. And let me just remind everybody to please silence your cell phones, no flash photography, no live transmission or streaming of these press conferences or videotaping of them is allowed. Satellite coordinates are available on sheets of paper that are laid out on the tables in this room. And when we get started, Coach Weber will be first, 15 minutes, followed by student athletes. Okay, everybody, we'll get started here with the Kansas State portion of today's proceedings. Coach Weber, if you could just give us a couple of opening thoughts, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, obviously, we're excited to be part of this, to be in the Sweet 16, and I'm just so happy for our players. They've been very dedicated, worked very hard. It's been a great group from really day one, and I've talked about it before, just getting in the tournament last year and getting to play in Dayton, getting a win. It was such a motivator for them to get a taste of it. It led right into our workouts in the spring and the summer, and the great leadership of Barry Brown and Dean Wade, Mason Schoen, Cam Stokes. They really took our group to another level. We've really persevered. If you look at all the things that have happened to us, the injuries, and it seems like next man up has been definitely something that's they've kind of bought into, and and it's I'm just proud of them and happy to be part of it. Obviously, we have a challenge. I think Kentucky, Coach Cal does a better job defensively than people give them credit for. Obviously, their length causes you problems, and we're catching them at when they're hot. I think 9 out of 10 won the SEC tournament. They got good players. They got size. We just got to hope we got to come out, fight them, grind it out, and see if we got somebody that can step up and make some shots.
We'll open up for questions. Let's go right here. Just a reminder to please identify yourself before you ask a question. Thank you.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com. Coach, there's been some reseeding, so to speak, media reseeding the 16 teams, and you guys have been parked at or near the bottom in every one I've seen. Do your guys pay any attention to that? Is that a motivator or just something you tune out?
I don't know if they saw it, but we made sure they saw it. And, we put it up on the board. Obviously, the game was ugly the other day, but I don't think people appreciate what UMBC did to Virginia. You're talking the best team in the country for most of the year, and that team was tough to play. And how our guys played to exhaustion, how their guys played to exhaustion. Obviously, it wasn't the prettiest game, and I'm sure that's how people would rate you off of that thing. But I'm proud of our guys and what they've done and how they fought. You can also look at the defensive numbers. We're last in the ratings, but we're number one in the defensive rating. Defensive efficiency, points per game, I believe. So that always gives you a chance, and they bought into that. Done what the coaches have asked, and that's why we've had a successful season, and that's why we're here.
Third row on the right.
Yeah, Coach. Matt Hall, Case It Online. I should get it out of the way. Any change in Dean Wade's status since last time we talked?
Well, if you saw, you were out there. It got a little bit. We loaded it. We got him, moving a little bit. He did some 5-on-0, a little bit of live stuff today. Just see how he feels. And every day they've increased it. He's got, to points where now he doesn't have pain with the boot on, which is a positive step. Now we'll see when we did something how he reacts, and he, he's not going to be a 30-minute guy, but if we can get like NBA, the minute guy, a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there. Obviously smart, he does a lot of good things for us. Be a nice boost. I know the guys were excited to have him back and cheering him on today.
Second row on the left.
David Haas, Chicago Tribune. Bruce, this is the third team you've taken to the Sweet 16, 3 different programs, 3 different teams. What has been the same about your approach in each of those situations?
Well, and then I've also been part of, when I assisted at Purdue, we did it several times. So you have that experience. I think the big thing is that when we at SIU, we weren't ready for it. I mean, it surprised us. I didn't even know who we were playing, what bracket we were in, whatever. I was just happy to be there, and we found the way to beat Georgia and Chicago. And that if you remember back, that was UConn, Kentucky, Maryland, and us, and Maryland ended up winning that thing. And our guys ran out there. Several of them were at our game last week, and they brought it out. We ran out there, and they looked at the banners, and we don't belong, coach. But I think since then I've learned hey, this is not about just getting there. It's about moving forward and making sure they understand it. That was our emphasis yesterday. Can't stop here. You got to keep moving forward. You got a chance. Obviously, there's been so much chaos in this year's tournament, and you say, hey, Kentucky's favored. Yeah, fine. So was Virginia. So was Michigan State. So was all the other teams. And they all are not playing, and we're playing. So, I think we got to have a good mindset. And I guess more than anything, that's what I've changed. My first team at Illinois, I talked about getting to the Sweet 16. I didn't talk about getting to the Final Four, and I thought I capped them. And then, that summer then, I said, we're going to the Final Four. We gave out T-shirts, and that's what happened. So, I guess if different is just kind of saying not just get there, let's get, further and further and keep making that next step.
I think we have two in the back over here.
Hey, Coach, Mark Tracy from the New York Times. I noticed Sunday's game, New York Times, especially in the second half when your guys were on defense in the opposite end of the court, you were definitely, yelling at them and trying to, not yelling at them, but, yelling to things to them and, moving closer to that midcourt line. And I wanted to ask you, the coach's box was expanded this year.
For me.
for everyone.
No, for me, I think.
Well, I mean, have you noticed a real difference in your ability to operate as you want? And
everyone gets carried away. I think if you watch games, a lot of guys go a step out or so. The refs continuing. My thing is, we don't. If you yell at the refs, you should get a technical. If you're coaching your kids, I don't understand. There is no effect on it. I've applied to be on the rules committee several times. They've turned me down. But I don't understand that. If we're bothering them, give them a technical. If we're coaching our guys, that's what we're paid to do. And so obviously it was a grind out game, emotional game, exhaustion game. I was just trying to encourage them and keeping them going. And I don't know, what was it, 9 straight times we didn't score, but we kept the lead. So we had 10 straight stops, and you just encourage them, keeping them. But I have had officials tell me that it was expanded for me, so that's why I'm joking about it. So,
one more on the right or toward the center.
Hi, Coach. Coy Wire, CNN. With the work that you and your family have done for Coaches versus Cancer and other philanthropic endeavors, you have been like a hero to many. But, Coach, who is your hero?
Oh, I think my hero had to be my dad and mom, my parents. My dad came over on a boat from Austria, and my grandparents, you just think about what they did and the sacrifice they made to give us a chance. My dad and mom said we all 5 of the kids were going to be teachers and coaches, and we all were. We were afraid of my dad if we didn't do it, and he just said there was no better life than to help others, and how better way you can do it, and teach and coach. And at that time, he said, you get your summers off. Well, obviously in coaching now, even high school coaches, they don't have the summers off. So, so that my parents are definitely my heroes. And I just watched my mom sacrifice for so many people and help so many people. And I always told myself, if I ever get to a position where I can help others, that was going to be my whatever commitment to be there to help, whether it's Coaches versus Cancer or whatever it might be, and my wife, my family. And I think it's great for my kids to see that, and that, we're so blessed and have so much given to us that, when we give, and I talk to our players all the time, the more you give, the more you receive. And I really believe that, and that's how I try to live my life.
We have 2 on the left side over here.
Coach Ken Segura, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I've been asking the coaches today about their first jobs in the business, and I was curious, what do you remember about what you did for Coach Katie, and kind of what did that mean for you in your career?
Well, it was a crazy thing. Coach Katie gets mad when I tell her, but at Western Kentucky, I applied for a grad assistant, and he said, come down and meet me, and I drove 9 hours. And for me that time, I had never driven 9 hours from Milwaukee to Bowling Green. And when I got there, I had my leisure suit. I was ready to go, and he wasn't there. And he was not only not in town, he was out of the country, and he totally forgot about me. And I was just heartbroken because, this is why, I thought I was going to get into college coaching. I had taken off working camp. I drove all the way back. About a week later, I got on a payphone, working camp, Marquette University High School, put my quarters in because there was no cell phones. You had to. And I called, and I got Coach Katie. I said, I came down there. Yeah, I'm sorry. He said, drive back down. And I said, hey, I can't do that. I'm running camp. And I said, either hire me or not. And obviously, if I would have known how mean he was and tough he was, I would have never done that. But I didn't know any different. And, he said, okay, I'll hire you, be here on whatever date. And he had never met me. And I was with him 19 years. He gave me a chance in the business. And when you talk about heroes, obviously for a coach to what he did for me and what he's done for so many, it's amazing. But, that was the start. And the next year he went to Purdue, and he said, you want to go to Purdue? And, okay, come on up. And it was just, and then we were at Purdue for that long time. And, so he got me into the business. But it's, we first NCAA tournament, Western Kentucky, we hosted. And it was Kentucky with Kyle Macy. It was Isaiah Thomas, Indiana. They were all in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Toledo was there. They had great players, Harvey Nichols, Dick Miller. That for me, I was just in awe and appreciative, and so appreciative of Coach Katie.
Okay, 3 more on this side of the room, and then we'll be done.
Hi, Bruce. John Huang, NOLA Media. Both you and Coach Calipari have been doing this for a long time. What is your relationship with him, and any significant meetings with him in the past that stand out in your mind?
Well, we played them a couple of years ago. They were the 8 and 9, and we were the 9. I don't know why they were the 8, because I think that was the year with the Harrisons, and they were really, really good. And we battled them, and way back when we were at Purdue, he was at UMass. We played one of his early teams. They came to Mackey Arena. I remember that, but those have been the only times that I've really had games against him, I guess. So obviously he's done amazing things at several programs, and as I said, I think he doesn't get enough credit for what how he develops his teams, and they're really good defensively right now, and that's one of my biggest fears for our team, how we're going to find a way to score.
Okay, last 2 here on the second row.
Coach, how gratifying is it to get back to this Sweet 16 stage after that early success you had at Illinois and even at Southern?
It's great. It's great for our kids, great for our program. We have such a good group. I couldn't ask, for a better group to get here, and they've earned it. They've worked hard. It's good for our program, for our fans. It's exciting, and my K-State team, my first year there, I thought that was a team. Definitely was a Sweet 16 team. Maybe, Wichita ended up going that year. We would have been in that bracket, and just so disappointing. But that's the tournament. You watch, this year, there's so many teams lose. But we got a good group, and it's fun, and I'm glad they got rewarded. When I doubted without telling them, they didn't doubt. And you lose your point guard, and, in 2-3 games into the Big 12, the toughest conference in the country. And, can we survive? And they didn't doubt. They kept moving, and, you learn something from them, that their hope and belief that they can be good, and they weren't going to let our team down, and they didn't.
Last question.
On the other side of the bracket, Loyola's made earned a lot of attention. Can you relate to what Porter Moser is going through? A coach, Missouri Valley Conference program being looked at, generating the sort of buzz that he's created.
Yeah, it's great for him. He's great, good person. We've known for a long time. He got it. He had a job, lost his job. He got a second chance to win the league, win it outright, win the tournament, get here, and now win some games. And I'm sure, somebody else asked me that I know what we went through at Southern, the attention you get, to get, it's one thing to get in, you get attention, but to get to the 16 as a mid-major, I guess you could call them, they sure don't play like it, that it's overwhelming. I'm sure in Chicago it's probably even more overwhelming because they're the one team that's still around. And so you got to deal with that. You better enjoy it, but at the same time, you got to try to keep the kids focused on being able to win, and keep moving forward. And that was, they asked before, that was, I guess, at SIU. I wish I would have been a little better about focusing. It's just, I remember I did 25 radio interviews in one day. And, you can't think about coaching. You got so much going on, but it's also good for your program. So, but, I'm happy for him and his group. And in Missouri Valley, Doug Elgin is one of the best. Commissioner, and happy for them.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with the student athletes. Please make sure when you ask a question to, as much as possible, direct it to a single individual and let us know who that is. Raise your hand and we'll get started right here in the middle.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com. Barry, I'll start with you. When your guys' group came in 3 years ago, it was kind of a rebuild. You guys got thrown right into the fire, right onto the playing court, and you won, I think, 5 Big 12 games. Talk about that process and how challenging it's been to get from that 5 to the 8 to the 10, and now what you're doing in this tournament.
Man, it's been tough. We, like you said, we came in. Got playing right away, which is something we all wanted to do. And just, as the years go by, we're kind of leaving the program better than what we found it. And I think that was one of our goals coming in, us three, coming in and just trying to rebuild the program to what has been in the past.
Toward the back on the left.
This is for Barry, Tom Martin with KCTV. It seems like Shea Alexander has been on a tear lately, and just another point guard for you to guard and try to stop. What do you see with him? How do you prepare for him?
Just watch a lot of tape and just kind of see where he wants to pick his spot, see how he handles pressure, and I've been watching him a lot, so I kind of know what he likes to do and where he wants to be on offense, and just trying to attack him on defense as well.
Raise your hand so we can get a microphone to you. Who has a question? One more.
I guess when you're doing that film study, because you said that about Jarris as well, what are you looking for the most, and what do you wind up using and translating on the floor the most, and you think?
I'll just look at everything, honestly. I think I start on just ISOs, see what they want to do in ISOs, then I start seeing, then I watch full games and see how they do. I watch games where they went off and games where they didn't do so well, just to see how those match up, and then I start just watching their plays, trying to kind of memorize their plays and know where they want to be before when they call a play, and so I'll be ready.
Further back on the left.
Barry, I know you spend all kinds of hours in the gym, but now kind of going off the talk of you researching everybody on video, how much time would you say you spend doing that as well?
I don't know. I don't know, but I spend enough time between the coaches and myself, and plus the film work we have as a team. Honestly, I couldn't really tell you, but I think it's paying off.
2 on the right side here.
Tucker Toole, Maroon Tiger Media Group. Kamal, knowing how Kentucky has been and knowing how Coach Calipari has been and just the history of that program, how have you guys been preparing for that as a team?
We got to treat it the same way we treat any other game. We can't go about it any differently. Like Barry said, we've been watching film, looking at things they like to do and how they pick their spots, and we just got to make adjustments to that and be really locked in during that game.
One more on the right.
Yeah, Matt Hall, Case Online. X, this is for you. You guys have kind of bounced back in the tournament from underdog to favorite to underdog. Which side of that do you prefer being on, and what's your mentality going into this one against Kentucky?
Just bouncing off what Cam said, we have the same mentality for every game. We really don't pay attention to outside affairs or really like that. So we just stay locked into our scout reports, of course, and just come in and focus for the game.
In the middle.
Cam, this is a bigger stage. The first 2 rounds are cool. You're in the tournament, but now can you feel like the attention's ramped up, and how are you guys trying to just stay focused on the task at hand?
We know we want to keep moving forward, and to do that, like I said, we got to be real locked in and just focus on one game at a time. We've been focusing on that since the tournament started, and we just got to keep doing that just to be locked in and focus on what's ahead.
Raise your hand if you have a question for the student athletes at Kansas State. Second row on the left.
Wyatt Thompson, Kansas State Radio. X, I guess I'll ask you about this. So many have talked about what Kentucky has done in the 5-game winning streak and 9 of 10, much better defense. How much of that have you been able to see on tape and kind of give us a sense of what they're doing well defensively right now?
They just ramped it up, like we have as well. They just ramped it up. They don't want to lose. In the season, nobody does really. So I can see that in how they're fighting, and I feel like we have been the same way as well this season. So I feel like we come out and just be tougher than them in this game, and I feel like we have a great chance.
Come out for you, if you don't mind, just their length. What are the concerns I'll have you speak for the whole team here, I guess. What are your concerns about just their length and athleticism?
We just gotta move the ball. You know, it's definitely gonna be opportunities for us to get open, just because of the way they play. They like going for steals and blocks and everything. So we gotta pick our spots wisely and make the right play.
Let's go back to the middle of the room here.
Barry, when guys like you are playing such tough defense, you're so focused on it. You appeared to me at the end of the last game to be as tired as I've seen you. How mentally and physically exhausting is it to go that hard as a team on defense and then convert to offense?
I mean, it's tough, but I mean, I've been preparing for this all year, my whole life, and so I mean, it's nothing I'm not ready for. I pride myself on defense and also playing offense as well. So I mean, I think I've been doing a good job of that this whole season, and I mean, it's something that I told my coaches I wanted to do, and this is something I have to do.
Fifth row here on the left.
For Cam, how would you characterize how you guys have managed to survive without Dean? And if he can play, what does that immediately bring you guys?
You know, when one player on your team goes down, it's a type of mental toughness from everybody else on your team that you got to step it up. We've shown that throughout this whole season. And, you know, if Dean plays, you know, he'll add extra size and another threat out there on the court for us, so it'll be big.
Back to the middle of the room.
X, this is the third different program Coach Weber's taken to the Sweet 16, and he's been to a Final Four. How helpful is that for the players to have a guy in charge that's been here, done that, and has such experience?
Oh, like you said, experience is a big word there. He's so experienced. He knows what to do in each situation, and he's a great coach for us. You know, he puts us in the right positions and to succeed, and he's big for us. Helps us out a lot.
Emily.
Hey there, Emily, CBS 46. I work here in Atlanta now, but I used to work in Kansas. I worked in Wichita for 2 years, and I just got here a year ago, so I used to cover you guys. And my thought is, when I was there, it was very Wichita State and Kansas driven. I'm sure you guys have thought about this, or people have asked you about it. What's it like to rep K-State now in the state of Kansas, where college basketball is just king?
It feels great, you know. Being one of those teams that everybody's talking about, you know, one of the last 16 teams that's still playing, it just feels great. And like you said, coming from a state where it's mostly probably KU, it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to our fans.
Barry, you want to take that too?
Me?
Yeah.
Like he said, I'm just piggybacking what he said. I mean, it's great to be one of the last 16 teams playing. It's a special time of the year, and just to be able to rep K-State and make our friends proud, our families, and our coaching staff is big time.
Fifth row on the left.
Barry, Bruce has always kind of worn his emotions on his sleeve, especially on the floor. But off the floor, what sense do you get of what this means to him, trying to build this program to get to this point and have a chance?
I think it's big time for him, and I mean everyone in the locker room, coaches, players, everyone that's thinking about K-State and a fan of K-State. I think it's big for everyone. But I mean, as far as coach, I know he really wants us to win, and we all want to win. We all expect him to win right now, and so he's kind of just ramping it up a little bit, just so that we can stay focused, stay ready, and be prepared mentally.
How does he ramp it up?
I mean, he's just getting on us about all the little things, all the things that are going to show in the game that could be the factor of us winning or losing. Just kind of trying to fine-tune some things.
Last question in the back.
Vahe Gregorian, Kansas City Star. Sort of two parts for you, Barry. Can you just describe what it was like to go through the eye injury, that first moment, and how scared you were? And the second part really is your dad was talking about how you were taught if you roll around, you come out of the game. So he knew you were really hurt. Can you just tell us a little bit about how he instilled toughness in you?
Well, I mean, the first part, I mean, I got hit in my eye, and it was bleeding kind of just a whole bunch, and I couldn't really see once I got the blood out. It was still kind of pretty blurry. I tried to get back out there and look, but I was kind of seeing two rims, and I was looking at the rim, and so, I mean, it was a indicator. I just couldn't play that game, And so, I mean, I just try to be the biggest cheerleader for my team, try and keep some positive energy on the sideline and cheer them on as much as I could. And I think you said, what was the next question?
How your dad got toughness across to you, and if that was important to him, important to you.
I mean, he's just been tough on me. I think it's just something that he's been doing my whole life, and I think he just, I don't know, maybe words and stuff like that maybe kind of got me mentally tough and ready to be up under any coach, especially yelling at me and stuff like that. I think him yelling at me at a young age and preparing me mentally for that kind of prepared me for this stage right now.
Gentlemen, thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, before we get started with Kentucky, just a reminder that while the student athletes and Coach Calipari are here on the dais, the Kentucky locker room, all the other individuals on the team will be available in their locker room for that half hour. Just a reminder to please silence your cell phones. No flash photography is permitted, nor is live streaming of the press conference or videotaping of it. You can get satellite coordinates for these feeds there are sheets of paper laid on the tables that you can pick up and get that information. Please remember to raise your hand when you want to ask a question, and we'll get a microphone holder to you, and then we can recognize you. And please identify yourself and your media agency before you ask a question. And just another reminder that transcripts from all the press conferences are available at ncaa.com/transcripts. Thank you. Okay, folks, remember to raise your hand so we can get a microphone to you, and identify yourself and your media agency when you ask a question. So let's get moving. Raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you right away. Let's go right here in the front on the left.
Riley Gates with GoPowerCat.com. Kevin, a lot of people are saying that you guys have the easiest path to the Final Four potentially ever, and that you're really not going to be challenged all that much to get there. How do you keep your guys focused and keyed in and take every team seriously with people saying that?
I don't think we've had an easy path. Every game you got to be able to come out and fight. You see a lot of upsets, so there's a lot of teams coming out trying to knock you off. So I think every game we got to come out and fight for 40 minutes. I don't think we've had an easy path at all so far. Some top seeds got knocked out, but we're not focused about that. We're just focused about us and just making sure that we go out and fight and just play to win.
Right here in the middle of the room.
Jermaine Franklin with TSN. Shea, can you talk a little bit about your growth and development from the start of the season all the way up until now?
The beginning of the season, I faced a lot of adversity, working as hard as I am. It was a lot on my body, but the transition hasn't been too hard. I've just continued to work at it, and try to do what Coach is asking of me, and it's paid off.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up, did you know that it was in you this early? Did you expect to be this dominant at this point in your college career?
I know what I'm capable of, and I know that if I work hard and work as hard as I have, that good things will happen and things like this will. And I just try to take advantage of the situation.
On the right.
Tom Martin with KCTV. This is for Shea. It seems like, Barry Brown consistently this year has made it a point to shut down opposing point guards. Trae Young was one of them. He had a tough time against him. What challenge do you see facing him as a defender?
They're really physical. All their guards are really, really strong opposing guards. They like to get after it, but I've seen a lot of defenses this year, and I'll be ready for the challenge.
On the right side. Fourth row.
Ashley Herman, junior reporter for Last Word on Sports. This is for Kevin. What is the team's confidence level as of now? Is it like a jovial atmosphere in the locker room? If not, how would you describe it?
I think our confidence right now is as high as it's been all season. We had a really great SEC tournament. We had some momentum coming into this NCAA tournament. I think we're playing our best basketball. Everyone was just picking each other up in the locker room, just getting after it in practice, really focusing on the game plan and the walkthroughs. And I think right now we're doing a really good job of just sticking together and playing together on both ends of the basketball court.
Raise your hand so we can get a microphone to you. Let's go right here, fourth row on the left.
Hi, Hami. John Huang, NOLA Media. Word has it that almost the entire state of Kentucky will be coming down here to watch you guys play. Throughout the year, how have you felt the weight of expectations of Big Blue Nation on your shoulders, and how good does it feel to have them rally around you now?
It's definitely a lot of weight on our shoulders, but it's just another game is how we see it, and we're going to have a lot of fans there, so it will be to our advantage, but we still got to come out and play Kentucky basketball.
Let's go over here on the right, and then we'll go to the left. Sorry.
This is for Kevin. The challenge of not knowing if you're going to get Dean Wade on the floor or not, what have you seen from them without him? And then if you have to prepare for him, what kind of challenge would that be?
We know he's a really good player. He really knocked down the shot, really scored in the mid-range, but us not knowing if he's going to play or not, we're just really focusing on us. We don't really care if he plays or not. We're just going to go out and do what we do defensively and offensively. Hopefully it plays so they have no excuse, but we're just going to go out and just play our best basketball.
Left side.
Myron Metcalf, ESPN. Kevin, when Shea is playing the way that he's been playing the last few weeks, how does that affect the confidence of this team overall?
He's playing his best basketball, and he's kind of the key to the team. He has the ball in his hands. He makes the right plays, and he's grown so much over the season with his decision-making. He does a really good job of getting in the lane. If you want to collapse, you can pass it out to me, Hami, Shea, Quade. So we got a lot of guys that can really knock down the shot, but he's playing his best basketball. He's against the basket, making the right decisions, and he's just doing what we need him to do.
In the back on the left.
Marcus Hamilton, CBS 46 here in Atlanta. Guys, talk about when you were in the middle of your losing streak and how you guys had to come together as a team and gel together as a team to quiet the noise, and what you think you did well to get yourself to the team's level of confidence where you are right now.
Is that for all of us?
Who was that for? All right, Jaime, why don't you start?
I mean, I would say we just try to stick with each other as much as possible. I mean, we all been through adversity this season, and we all know what it feels like. So when we lost 4 in a row, we know many people had turned against us, and many people had counted us out. So it was a little bit of fuel and a little bit of motivation, and we just ran with it, and we just keep trying to listen to the coaches and keep trying to do what we got to do on the court.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you for a question. Who has one? In the back again, on the left.
Nubias Wilborn, Scored News. For Scal, what's been the biggest, Scal, I'm sorry.
Who's it for?
Totally put out
Shay,
this kid.
Shay.
Shay, I'm so sorry. I said, I was thinking something totally. My apologies, man. I'm sorry. But anyway, for you, what's been the biggest upgrade for you throughout the season? Came in with the high expectations. Some things kind of had some adversity, but then now you're kind of back on course. How you kind of gotten it back together?
I think we've worked really hard since the 4-game losing streak and losing some close and tough games. We just try to work as hard as possible and do what coach is asking of us and really try to play for each other. And when we do those things, we're special.
Toward the back on the right.
Tucker Toole, Maroon Tiger Media Group. Guys, Shai, did you guys think that the adversity that you went through at the beginning of the season helped you all get to the point where you all are now, with the games and playing in the tournament, getting to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if we don't go through that adversity and that 4-game losing streak, we're not as good as we are right now. And I don't think we would have won the SEC tournament. Going through adversity teaches you a lot. We learn from it. We learned from it across the board, all 12 of us, and yeah, we all got better.
Got time for one more? Somebody raise their hand, we'll get a microphone to you. On the right, toward the back.
Jonathan Adams, Heavy.com. Just for any 3 of you, how do you balance the personal aspirations? I'm sure you guys have aspirations to play professionally eventually. How do you balance those aspirations with your team goals for the season?
Who was that for?
I mean, I think coaches give us roles, and we just try to stick to what we got to do best for the team. Like he says, I mean, no one really cares what the league is telling you to do. You just got to come out and do what you do best, and that's what Coach Cali sat down with every one of us and told us we didn't do what we need to do for the team, and that's what we've been able to do. And some certain guys' roles are different than others, but we just go out and just do what we got to do best, and that'll help us get to where we want to be.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay, let's continue with Kentucky with Coach Calipari. Coach, if you wouldn't mind giving us a couple opening thoughts, and then we'll go to questions.
We're excited to be here, still playing. My challenge is making sure these kids don't drink that poison. That poison being we have an easy road. There are no easy roads in this tournament. If they drink that poison, we'll be done Thursday. If they don't drink the poison, it'll be a dogfight on Thursday. Let's see what happens. Sometimes you wonder why they're trying to paint that picture with my team, probably because they're young and they know they don't know better. But the team's here, veteran coaches, and their teams are all playing well.
Let's go to questions on Mark on the right.
Hey, John, Mark Bradley from Atlanta. This has kind of happened, what's happening now has kind of happened before in 11 and 14, where a team that sort of played itself down the food chain is now rising back up. Is there a Calipari method to how you take it down and then bring it back up at the last minute?
I never take it down. I mean, I'm trying to coach my team to win every game, but what ends up happening with the teams you're talking about, we were just so young that it took time. And you're trying to land the plane before you run out of runway. In 2014, the nose of the plane hit the fence. And we got better, and it kind of clicked in the tournament. And we started playing well in our tournament. They gave us a crazy seed, and we ended up beating a number 1 seed, and then the rest we kind of rolled from. But 11, Brandon Knight, you ready? Missed 6 game winners until the NCAA tournament. And then he started making game winners. Terrence and the guys and Duran, I mean, Darius, I mean, we had a good team then. Josh and the guys that we had on that team and how they played. And this team is totally different from those teams. This team is even more inexperienced. And we went through a stretch of 4 NCAA tournament teams, 3 of them on the road, and we lost all 4. 2 of them we could have easily won. We had leads in the last minute or 2. And we had to learn from it, and they did. We got great kids, good players, just inexperienced.
5th row here toward the left.
It's Chris Leach, Kentucky Colonel. John, do you think Jared Vanderbilt's going to play tomorrow? Do you have any update on his status?
I'm gonna watch him today in the shoot around. You know, he just keeps coming. I can do this. It's hard to play a guy that's going to play 80, 90% in these kind of environments. Just hard. The game is played at a high level. I mean, when you talk Kansas State, they're physical. They play hard. They'll fly, and then if they don't have it, they grind. You know, it's hard walking into a game like that. They lead their league in steals with the way they play, which is, you know, they cover that lane. So my guess is no, but it would be nice to have them there. That, like last game, we had foul trouble. You know, you have that guy there that you could put in would be nice.
4th row on the right.
Hi, Coach. Mark Tracy from the New York Times. I wanted to ask you about a rule change that came into effect this year that might have been one you were in favor of. They extended the coaching box, as you probably know, 10 feet. And, you know, as someone who likes to communicate with the team, has younger teams you want to communicate with, has that changed the way you're able to do business on the court?
Well, let me tell you why it's good. You have all kind of stadium configurations. Some of them, the bench is too far out. Some of them, the last seat, when you stand up, you're out of the box. So this eliminated all that. You know, I mean, again, it gives you more room to get closer to your team. But, you know, I like it, and I think most coaches do. It just, you don't want to step out, you know, in 94 at the Spectrum where they had all those lines, standing there and the guy calls a tee from 90 feet away. You're out of the box, and I really wasn't out of the box, but it looked like it. This eliminates that. Now you know where you are.
We got two here on the left, second row first.
Coach Riley, Riley Gates with GoPowerCat.com. You mentioned that poison in your opening statement. Do you feel like talk like that could give a team like K-State or really any team in the tournament extra motivation to come out against your team?
Well, Buffalo had it and they used it. I mean, Buffalo talked about, okay, now they're supposed to do this and this. I don't care how the other teams use it. They can use it to their benefit. You can't, the poison is both ways. If they're being down on a team or a player, don't drink it. It's a one-game thing. Just play and be your best. If you think, oh, they got this is going to be easy, you will lose in this tournament. And again, I've done this 20-some years, and even more than that probably, I don't know, but this thing is unpredictable. Who is playing well at the time? It's not like seed. Who cares about seed now? Seeds don't matter. It's who's playing well. And if you're playing well, you advance. If you're not playing well, guess what? You don't advance. So, I'm just trying to teach these guys because they've never been through this. They may be reading this stuff and, oh my gosh. No, don't read it, don't watch it. Just focus on the next game we have, which is a tough one.
Fourth row will stay on the left.
Hi, John. John Huang, NOLA Media. I read the feature article on you in GQ magazine, and the article focused a lot on your Catholic faith. How important is that to you, and what role does it play in your position as head basketball coach at the University of Kentucky?
Well, let me just say, I'm Catholic. My faith is the centerpiece of how I try to treat people, and I'd rather talk about basketball right now than that. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, and I'm not. But let me put it this way: I'm a sinner, so I don't want anybody to think like I think I'm not. And so, I think my players know my faith. I don't force it on anybody. I don't challenge anybody with it. I live my life the way I live my life.
Toward the back on the right.
Tucker Toole, Maroon Tiger Media Group. Coach, I know you just spoke on seeding and how seeding doesn't really mean much, and I was going to ask you, what does that affect your message to your guys, the 5 seed, and knowing that you guys are the highest left?
Well, here's what I would say. The initial seeding does matter. Like if you're a 1 seed, you have a big advantage over a 2, and a 2 has an advantage over a 3, and a 3 has an advantage over the 4. And what I always say is if you misseed somebody, you make somebody an 8 that should be a 5, you're not doing damage to the 8. It's who is the 8 playing. That team just got damaged. They shouldn't have been playing an 8. They should have been that 8. That's a 5. But after the tournament unfolds, right now, seeds don't matter. We've all advanced. There's 16 of us, and 4 in this region is the only 4 I care about. And really, I only care about Kansas State right now. Where they're seated, who cares? If they come out and play well, do you think I'm thinking about they're an 8 seed or a 7 or a 9, whatever it is? It doesn't matter. This is a basketball game of 2 teams that are still standing, that will fight till the death to win a basketball game. And that's going to happen in every one of these games. And believe me, the other coach isn't talking about seed, and teams got knocked off.
Let's go fourth row here in the middle.
Wes Blankenship, NBC affiliate here in Atlanta. Coach, Georgia hired Tom Crean right up the road from here a few days ago. Just from your coaching perspective, what's Georgia getting with the hire like that, and what's the SEC getting as well?
Well, he's a terrific basketball coach, great guy, been a friend. I've known him for a long time, and he's got a good job. Georgia's a good job. They've proven it over the years, and I think it'll be great for our league, and it's going to be great for Georgia.
Let's go here on the left, far left.
Coach Ken Segura, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Ted Owens said his regards. Talked to him yesterday. I was asking the coaches about their first jobs in coaching and just kind of what they got out of it. And can you tell me a little bit about what you did?
Did Coach Owens tell you about my first job?
He did, yeah. And I had a question he had a question for you He has a theory about how you got your bed from Allen Fieldhouse, and I was wondering if you'd address
There's
that.
some stories. I don't have time. I don't like to filibuster. But I was a volunteer assistant, and he watched me work camp, Coach Owens, and he said, I want you to join my staff. And I said, what position? He said, I'd like you to be a volunteer. And I said, well, how much does a volunteer make? And I lived with Dolph Carroll, who was the part-time coach. We didn't have furniture because we had a choice between ESPN or furniture. And we chose ESPN. We sat on pillows. I worked with the Sinclairs and served food. Would you like peas or corn? And I'd serve them, and I'd say, Tad Boyle, let's work on some shooting. And Tad and Dishman and Jeff Dishman and the guy we'd play one-on-one at the time, I was 24, I killed them. Couldn't play me. Turge came later, it was too small. I posted him up. But it was basketball. It was a great time of my life. I met my wife. She worked at the University of Kansas at the time. And no worries, no money, nothing except basketball. And it was a great time. And a true gentleman in Ted Owens. Later, Larry Brown asked me to come back and be on his staff as a part-time assistant. So I kind of moved up the ladder a little bit, but those were great times. Those were great times. I mean, you're just there to help everybody. It's not on you. Like, I'm at Kentucky, it's not really on me. I wear this coat 24/7. There, you're a young guy trying to figure it out. How do I do this? And I just got lucky. Ted Owens and Larry Brown and the guys I worked for, and later went to Pitt with Roy and Paul Evans, and I've been blessed.
Back row in the middle.
Matt Jones, Kentucky Sports Radio.
I'll tell you the bed thing, because I couldn't afford a bed, and I'll tell you later. It's one of my sins. I'll tell you what it was. Did you hear the day after? The day after the movie? The triage was Allen Fieldhouse. I had no bed. So they had all these cots in Allen Fieldhouse. So Dolph and I were leaving one day, and I saw a double-wide cot. It was that wide. And we went back that night, and I scooped up that cot, and that was my bed. I had to put a piece of plywood underneath it, but that was my bed. That's how I had a bed. It was a great time. Think about that. I slept on a cot for a year, 2 years.
Two more questions. Let's start in the back.
In your recruiting class, Shea Alexander was the only one who was not a McDonald's All-American, and now there are some people projecting he might be the second point guard taken in the draft. Did you see the way he's performed this year when you recruited him this quickly? Did you think he could be as good as he's been?
His length and his size set him apart. Learning to be that point guard. He has a scorer's mentality. Learning to get him to create for others, to lead in a way by how hard you play and how much you are a servant leader for everybody else, to limit turnovers. But what you can't do for a young man like that is put in the time and the work. 7 o'clock workouts, shooting. Best in the weight room that we had. Watch film with the coaches, like drag you in, please watch this with me. Never miss a class, never late for a tutor, and work as hard as anybody I've had in practice. Bring it to the level that he can bring it every day. Try to tell the rest of the team, do you see what's happened for him? And he doesn't play for himself, he plays for the team, but this team needs him to do stuff. Like, we need you to go get some baskets now and then. But I'm proud of him. He's another, the Canadian kids from Trey to Jamal to even Michael and now Shea, they always have a smile on their face. They always want to learn. It's a different mentality when they come in. And I used to say, Jamal would always point to me like if I wasn't smiling when I walked into practice. Smile. So, I've had fun coaching him like I've had fun coaching all these kids.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.